Chapter 1.5, Solving Inequalities. Okay, first we need to know how to write and graph inequalities. The first one is x is greater than 4. If you were to graph that, you'll put 4 in the middle. And if the symbol is less than or greater than, that's an open circle. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, it's a closed circle. So this is going to have an open circle on 4, and you're going to shade everything that is bigger than 4. X is greater than or equal to 4, that's going to be the greater than symbol with a line up under it. You're going to make the same number line, except this time you're going to have a closed circle on 4. You're still going to shade everything that is greater than 4 because that's what your inequality said. The next one is x is less than 4. You're going to have an open circle because it's just less than. Then you're going to shade everything that's less than 4, which is 3, 2, and so on. The next one is x is less than or equal to 4. Your number line is going to look very similar to the one you just did, except this time it's going to have a closed circle on 4. And you're going to shade everything that's less than 4. Okay, when you have to write your inequality, first you have to make sure that you write your numbers in the right order. 5 fewer than a number is not 5 minus n. It's n minus 5. Anytime you have than in there, it swaps the order. So 5 fewer than a number is n minus 5. If it's at least 12, that means it's 12 or more. So it's going to be greater than or equal to 12. Guided practice number 1. What inequality represents the sentence? The quotient of a number and 3. Quotient is division, so we're going to do a number n divided by 3 is no more than 15, which means it's going to have to be less than or equal to 15. Alright, your properties of inequality. The transitive property states that if A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then A must be greater than C. So let's say 5 is greater than 3 and 3 is greater than 1. So guess what? 5 must be greater than 1. The addition property states that if A is greater than B, then A plus C must be greater than B plus C. Just like if 5 is greater than 3, then 5 plus 2 must be greater than 3 plus 2. The subtraction property states the exact same thing. If A is greater than B, then A minus C must be greater than B minus C. Just like 5 and 3, 5 minus 2 must still be greater than 3 minus 2. Multiplication and division, I'm going to put stars beside them because they are more difficult. If you have multiplication, if A is greater than B and C is greater than 0, then A times C is still greater than B times C. However, if A is greater than B and C is less than 0, then A times C is less than B times C. So if 5 is greater than 3, and I'm going to multiply by C, which is, we'll call 2, and it's greater than 0, then 5 times 2 is going to be greater than 3 times 2. But if I'm going to multiply by negative 2, which happens to be less than 0, 5 times negative 2 is actually less than 3 times negative 2. Division works the same way. If A is greater than B and C is greater than 0, A over C is greater than B over C. However, if A is greater than B and C is less than 0, A over C is less than B over C. I've got 5 and 3 again. Let's say I'm going to divide by, actually let's don't use 5 and 3 because they're odd, and we'll do 6 and 4. And then we'll say 2 is greater than 0. Well, 6 over 2 must be greater than 4 over 2. But if I've got 6 is greater than 4 and negative 2 is less than 0. 6 over negative 2 is less than 4 over negative 2. Example 2, solving and graphing an inequality. They want to know the solution, and then they want you to graph it. So when you're trying to find the solution of an inequality, you follow the same rules that you do when you're solving equations, except if you divide or multiply by by a negative. So first thing you want to do is distribute the negative 3, and you get negative 6x plus 15 plus 1 greater than or equal to 4. Let's combine those, and we get negative 6x plus 16 is greater than or equal to 4. Subtract 16. Still okay. The inequality holds. That's negative 12. Divide both sides by negative 6. And I'm dividing by a negative, which means I need to turn my inequality around, and it's going to be positive 2. So when I graph that, I'm going to put positive 2, 3, 4, and on the other side go 1, 0. This is less than or equal to, so I'm going to put a closed circle, and I'm going to shade less than 2, which is 1, 0, and so on. Okay, solve this one on your own, and I'll give you the answer in just a second. Pause the video. Okay, so first thing you want to do is distribute the negative 2. Then you get negative 2x minus 18 plus 5. Then you want to combine these two, and you get negative 13. Add 13 to both sides. Divide both sides by negative 2. Turn your inequality around. You get negative 8. And then you want to graph on a number line. Okay, now let's use an inequality. A movie rental company offers 2 subscription plans. You can pay $36 a month and rent as many movies as desired, or you can pay $15 a month and $1.50 to rent each movie. How many movies must you rent in a month for the first plan to cost less than the second plan? Okay, I have $36 a month. It doesn't matter how many movies I rent on one plan. I want it to cost less than the other plan, which is $15 a month plus $1.50 times the number of movies I rent, so we'll call that N. So we wrote our inequality. Now we'll solve it. So we are going to subtract 15, and we get 21 less than 1.5 N. Divide both sides by 1.5. And I end up with 14 is less than N, which means I have to rent at least 14 movies. You must rent more than 14 movies. Example 4, sometimes you have no solution or all real numbers. Let me show you what happens when you get that. Distribute the negative 2 and you get negative 6x minus 2. Anytime you have the exact same number, sign, and variable, like negative 6x and negative 6x, on opposite sides of an equation or an inequality, they will cancel each other out. You don't have to do the math, you can just cancel them. And you get negative 2 is greater than 7. Is negative 2 greater than 7? No, it's not. That's impossible. If you ever get something that's impossible, your answer is no solution. B, you're going to distribute the 5. You get 10x minus 15 minus 7x less than or equal to 3x plus 8. 10x minus 7x is 3x. They're not on opposite sides of the inequality, so I don't change any signs. And then I figure out that I've got two 3x's. Same sign, number, and variable on opposite sides, so we're going to mark them out, and we get negative 15 is less than or equal to 8. That is always true, so my answer is going to be all real numbers. I like to say all reals. So never true, no solution. Always true, all real numbers. Guided practice 4, I want you to try this on your own. The answer is either going to be all real numbers or no solution. You tell me. Okay, if you did it correctly, you should get all reals. What you need to do is distribute the 4 and then distribute the 8. Then you'll have the same number of variable on either side, mark them out, and then see if what you have left is true. Okay, when you have and inequalities, compound inequalities, what you're going to do is graph both, and the solution is the overlap because they both have to be true. So where they overlap is where they're both true. So we're going to solve this, subtract 1. We get 6 is less than 2x, divide by positive 2, so keep the inequality like it is, and you get 3 is less than x. Over here, if you divide by 3, you get x is less than or equal to 6. So what we're going to do is graph these. We'll put the lower one on the left and the higher one on the right, and we only want to shade where both of the inequalities are true. So we want to shade the numbers that are greater than 3 and less than or equal to 6. So greater than 3, open circle on 3, closed circle on 6, and the numbers that are greater than 3 and less than 6 are between the two. If you want to write your inequality together, put your one variable in the middle, your bigger number on the right, your smaller number on the left, and put your signs between them. Number 11, if you have an or inequality, what you're going to do is still solve both of them. You get k is greater than or equal to -1. Then you get k is less than -5. When you graph these, you graph both. It's the one or the other, so you're going to put both on the number line. So we're going to start with -5 down here, -4, -3, -2, -1. For good measure, let's put 1 on either side. Put a closed circle on -1 and shade everything that is bigger than -1, which is this way. Put an open circle on -5 and shade everything that is smaller than -5, which is this way. Or 9 times out of 10 goes outside when you shade it. And then and goes inside when you shade it. Okay, now I want you to show your work. I've got you 3 questions I want you to do on your own paper. You have to answer all 3 questions. Bring it to me tomorrow to prove that you did your homework.